boy, what a week it has been. So let's cap this all off with this right now. Hello everybody and welcome to the Animation Podcast, a weekly podcast about all things animation brought to you by FilmBook. My name is Matt Brunet, but some of you may know me as AniMat from my YouTube channel, Electric Dragon 505, home of web series that are all about animation, including Animation Look Back and AniMat's Reviews. If this is your first time here in the Animation Podcast, well, my God, dude, you are in luck because you are here for one heck of an episode with some really big news. And for example, on this episode right over here, I'm going to start things off by looking into the animation side of the Golden Globe Award nominations that have been announced this week. Then afterwards, we will be looking into the brand new trailer of the animated Spider-Man film, which officially has a title. Then afterwards, we will be looking into Netflix and what DreamWorks has in store for 2018. Then afterwards, we will be looking into a man who is probably way too obsessed with B-movie. And then finally, we will end things off with one of the biggest AniMat's pick of the week of the year. If you want to check out more episodes of the Animation Podcast, then all you have to do is head on down to FilmBook, which is film-book.com, by searching the Animation Podcast. You can also email us at podcast@filmbook.com with the Animation Podcast in the subject line. And before I get things started, I just want to mention a few things beforehand that pretty much happened throughout this week because, like I said before, this has been an entirely insane week, especially with what's been going on in the news, some of which I will actually be covering inside the Animation Podcast. But first and foremost, let me just say Happy Hanukkah to all my Jewish fans and to all the Jewish viewers that are, or Jewish listeners actually. You can't really see me, you can only hear me in this case. So happy Hanukkah to you all. And also I just want to say congratulations Alabama for picking the right senator to be in charge. Congratulations to Doug Jones. And this is a great time that you completely decided to reject an entirely, full-on pedophile and go with a mentally functioning human being. That's definitely great of you. And it really does show that we are seeing the power of minorities becoming a lot greater than the power of idiotic white people. So that's definitely fantastic right over there. But also, you might have heard about the devastating news that happened about the FCC actually voted to repeal net neutrality, despite the grand majority of Americans and the grand majority of the world that they would say that they would want to keep net neutrality. And yeah, it is definitely sad. And it really does prove that the chairman of the FCC that was appointed by Donald Trump, Ajit Pai, he clearly is mentally ill. I think he should be labeled that, considering that he clearly just wants to go and decided to go for corporate greed over human decency and to go with the voice of the people. He has serious issues and has no right to be in a position of power. However, I just want to say, considering that Star Wars The Last Jedi was released this week, do not lose hope, people, because the battle is still just beginning. And considering that it's the grand majority of people that are in support of saving net neutrality, we are all gonna go and do the best we can to save net neutrality, and there are still plenty of ways to do so. If you are American, you can go to several websites, you can call your representative, you could do a lot of things to go and protect the internet as we know it, and to make sure that the internet belongs to the people. Remember, this is not over yet, and we are here to go and save net neutrality. And you got to remember, no matter what, the internet belongs to us. It does not belong to big name corporations. Okay, so with all that said and done, let's go right ahead and get things started with the Animation Podcast right over here and talk about the first story that I have, which is the Golden Globe Awards. Yes, the appetizers of all award shows. The one that's pretty much going to be starting the entire award season. So this week, the Golden Globe Awards, they pretty much announced its entire list of nominations. And there are a lot of them that are pretty much in the lead, and they got a lot of nominations. Most specifically, movies like The Shape of Water, The Post, and also Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. They are pretty much in the lead with all the different nominations that has been going on. And, okay, well, I'm using my source here in the wrap, and somehow, like, it's still loading for some reason. Okay, there we go. Just wanted to go and get down to where I actually want to go, which is the animation list. And right over here, it's actually very interesting because this year, it's not just in Best Animated Feature where you will find some animated films, you'll be also seeing them in the category of Best Original Song. Now, if this freaking website can cooperate with me and stop acting godforsaken slow, maybe we can actually get to do something. For God's sakes, what the fridge is going on, man? Okay, I don't know if this is either the website itself or... Okay, oh, hold on. Do we have life? Oh, wait, okay, whoa. Okay, I think I have it right over here. Yes, okay. So, I made it right over here to the Best Animated Feature category, so let us begin by listing down what we have. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the nominees for Best Animated Feature at the 75th Golden Globe Awards are The Boss Baby, The Breadwinner, Coco, Ferdinand, and Loving Vincent. But like I said, that is not all, because we also got Best Original Song. And let me tell you, if you think that is surprising to hear those movies in there, wait till you hear the ones in here. Now, of course, there are some live action films in here, like the song Mighty River from Mudbound, or This Is Me from The Greatest Showman. And the only one that's not surprising that's on this list, and we're going to be hearing a lot in Best Original Song, of course, is going to be the song Remember Me from Coco. But on top of that, there is also Home from Ferdinand, and also The Star from The Star. Yes, The Star actually got a nomination at the Golden Globes. So let me just start this off by saying that this is honestly the most unpredictable list of animated films to find in the Golden Globe Awards, because honestly, I was not expecting this at all. So let's just go ahead and just look at them one at a time. So first and foremost, the first thing that we see, The Boss Baby. This actually got a freaking nomination at the Golden Globes. And you know, this is starting to be a little bit scary right now, because not only the Golden Globes is giving The Boss Baby some recognition, but also considering that we just went through the Annie Awards, I think in the last episode, and The Boss Baby is actually quite prominent in there. It's not as much as Coco or The Breadwinner, but yeah, it's been getting a lot of nominations. And what I am a little bit fearing is that this animated film right over here might actually have a chance to be nominated at the Oscars. Like, they might actually pick The Boss Baby to be up for Best Animated Feature. And in that case, I think we might have found our new Shark Tale. Like, this is gonna, in fact, I think this is gonna get a lot more attention than Shark Tale, considering that not only is it that it could get an Oscar nomination, but considering, like, how, like, the amount of attention that it has been getting, I think it got a lot more than Shark Tale, so that's going to be a very strange addition right over there. But the next thing that I want to mention, and this is probably the most positive surprise that I see, is actually the fact that not one, but two independent animated features got nominated in the Best Animated Feature category. Now, I've previously stated this last year at the Golden Globes, that they would almost not recognize independent animated features at all. In fact, there have been only 2 times that the Golden Globes would ever recognize an independent animated feature. There was the 2010 Illusionist by Sylvain Chomet, and last year with My Life as a Zucchini. Literally, that's it. Every other time, it was just a big name animated feature from a major animation studio. I mean, technically you can count Anomalisa on that list, but I don't know, that is kind of pushing it, and it is distributed by a big studio, which in that case is Paramount Pictures. But right over here, seeing the fact that now we have two of them, and plus it is Loving Vincent, and like The Boss Baby, Loving Vincent is actually another one that has been getting a prominent amount of awards. Now, a lot of people might say it's not that great of a movie, but it really is the innovation of being the first ever oil-painted animated feature. So, like The Boss Baby, Loving Vincent could actually get a pretty good chance of getting a nomination at the Oscar as well. So, that might be something big right over there. And I think, like, considering if the Breadwinner gets a nomination here, then I think we know as a fact it's going to get a nomination at the Oscars. So, honestly, that is the most positive surprise to see, is that the Golden Globes are giving more recognition to indie films. So, that's definitely great right over there. Coco, well, let's be honest, that is the least surprising, considering that it is one of the best animated features of the year. Like, it might as well be put in there. But then you also got Ferdinand. And what the fridge? This is like something that came right out of left field. And not only that, it's not just the fact that Ferdinand got nominated for Best Animated Feature, but it's also the fact that Ferdinand got 2 nominations. That Ferdinand would be the one that would actually be in competition with Coco twice for Best Animated Feature and also for Best Original Song. And honestly, this is a bit unexpected. Like, that was probably the one that I didn't know how to feel, because back then, like when the Golden Globes announced that list, Ferdinand has yet to be released. Now, I'm sure like the people who voted for what would be nominated or not, they already saw it and they decided it would be good enough to be put onto the category right over here. But honestly, for me personally, I had yet to even see Ferdinand, so I just didn't know how to feel. Like, okay, so apparently it was good enough to get 2 Golden Globe nominations, which honestly kind of sounds crazy. And with all that said, again, like in the Annie Awards, I'm actually surprised to see that the Lego Batman movie once again did not actually get nominated. And yeah, kind of like with The Boss Baby and Loving Vincent, it could actually predict a little bit of what could be going on at the Oscars. Because in this case right over here, the Lego Batman movie might not actually be nominated in the first place. I could actually be wrong on that part. But honestly, I'm not going to say that I'm going to be angry that the Lego Batman movie won't be nominated. I'm not going to be repeating. I'm not saying I'm not going to be repeating, but I'm not, like, honestly, I don't think it's going to be the same case where people got legitimately livid over the fact that the Lego movie itself didn't get nominated. But one thing that I am at least shocked in the Golden Globes is the fact that they would put movies like The Boss Baby and Ferdinand over the Lego Batman movie? Like, are you for real? Like, I'll give it beforehand, like, when you look at the Oscars and the fact that they didn't nominate the Lego movie, I'll give it that the ones that did get nominated in its place, they're really good movies that deserve a nomination. With movies like maybe The Box Trolls, Big Hero 6, How to Train Your Dragon 2, The Tale of Princess Kaguya, and Song of the Sea, they are fantastic films in their own right that deserve an Oscar nomination. So putting those films over the Lego movie, that's fine. But the thing right over here is that you would give The Boss Baby and Ferdinand some recognition, but not one of the very few animated films that got the most praise this year. Like, are you for real, dude? Like, really? Like, why no love for the Lego Batman movie? Is it because, like, you think that the Lego Batman movie and the Lego Ninjago movie is one of the same? I mean, come on, let's be real right over here. But then, you also got one more giant surprise, which is also the fact The Star got a nomination. I mean, the fact that Sony Pictures Animation has released 3 animated features in 2017, and the one that's been getting the most recognition is their freaking cheap Christian movie? That's the one? Now, granted, it is for Best Original Song, so it doesn't necessarily reflect upon the movie itself, but pretty much the song that's been written, in this case, by Mariah Carey. So maybe on that field, maybe, like, that's the reason why they would give it recognition, but still, it is kind of crazy, just the mere idea of The Star actually getting a Golden Globe nomination. You know, it kind of gives a little bit of a Suicide Squad complex, where, yeah, like, technically, Suicide Squad won an Oscar only for best makeup and hairstyling. So, like, yeah, technically on that front, it is very well made, but the movie itself is not really good. So the same thing would be said right over here with The Star. The movie is definitely not that good, but it's surprising the fact that now we have to call it the Golden Globe nominated The Star, you know? But then again, it is a little bit unpredictable to say who would actually win for Best Original Song, especially in this case right over here, since it is up against Ferdinand with Home and also Remember Me with Coco. But not only that, it could be the case that maybe some of the live action films could actually win. Like maybe Mudbound would have a chance, or considering that the songwriters, I believe it's from the same guys who did La La Land, where The Greatest Showman could actually have a chance. So who knows how it's going to go. But honestly, yeah, I've already said this, but I will say it again. Overall, I just feel like this is the most unexpected list of animated features to find here at the Golden Globes. But regardless with what I said, I will say congratulations to all the animated features that received a nomination at this year's Golden Globes, and the best of luck to movies like The Boss Baby, Breadwinner, Coco, Ferdinand, Loving Vincent, and The Star, to see how it's going to go. So if you guys are excited to check out what's going to be happening at the Golden Globes, then I do believe the date of when the awards are going to be presented, yes, it says so right over here, that the award show will begin on January 7th, 2018. Okay, so for our next story that we have right over here, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man. And as you may probably know, Spider-Man is no stranger to animation, since he did already appear in several different animated series. In fact, on my YouTube channel, I actually did review one of the Spider-Man shows, which in this case is the Spectacular Spider-Man series. And that one was actually really, really good. And honestly, for my review, I was actually kind of shocked that it's actually quite popular. But never before have we fully seen an animated feature that would prominently star Spider-Man, or even with superheroes in general. We haven't seen anything like a big screen a big screen Marvel or DC superhero animated feature. I think the last time that it fully did happen, it was with Batman Mask of the Phantasm. I could be wrong, but that was the last time that I could remember. But lo and behold, Sony Pictures is actually going to be changing that, and they decided they want to try to change a few things with Spider-Man, considering that they still have the movie rights to go and make their own Spider-Man movies. And what I'm going to be talking about is going to be the animated Spider-Man film, which now officially has a title, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Yes, Sony Pictures Animation has officially released the teaser trailer of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This actually happened during the Brazil Comic-Con, where executive producers and the writers of this movie, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, decided to give audiences the first ever look into this film, because for a while we did not know anything about it. All we know was that this was going to be a fully animated Spider-Man film, and it will not star Peter Parker, but instead, it will star the half African-American, half Latino version of Spider-Man, Miles Morales, which now I can pretty much confirm, I do hope this is right, that I'm saying Miles' name right. It's actually Miles Morales, because beforehand I was a little bit confused. Like, is it Miles Morales or is it Miles Morales? I wasn't 100% sure. But maybe it's just my stupid white mind that wasn't fully 100% sure, like, how to actually say it. But yeah, basically what we got right over here in this teaser trailer, it didn't necessarily show a lot. It was just only about a minute and a half long, or just 80 seconds long, actually, where we just see a little taste of Miles in action, where he would jump off buildings, and there was at one point he would try to go and fight off a bad guy, or try to chase a bad guy, and then we see him pretty much unmasking himself, where we see, oh, look, it's Miles, it's not actually Spider-Man. And on top of that, like right at the beginning, we actually do see where Peter Parker is. Yes, Peter Parker actually makes an appearance in this teaser trailer. Well, not necessarily him, it's his tombstone. Because apparently in this version, Peter Parker is dead. And then what would happen is that right at the end, we see Miles in the subway, where he would ask a pretty interesting question where, wait, so how many of us are there? Pretty much insinuating that there could be more than one Spider-Man going around. Not just Miles, but there could be plenty of others. And the reactions that occurred right over here, man, people went nuts over it. Like, honestly, considering that, yeah, like, it goes into the superhero route, like, a lot of superhero fans that are paying attention to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're pretty much looking at this and, yeah, this has gone crazy. This has been getting a lot of positive reactions, but at the same time, this has been getting some mixed reactions. And at the same time, though, I have actually received a lot of people requesting me to give out my thoughts on this. And if I can be honest, it does look quite interesting. Like, I think that's at the most that I could say about it. I mean, this is a teaser trailer, so I can't fully put in my opinion on this movie just yet. But all I can say right now is that it is interesting. Like, yeah, definitely the style of the animation that they're presenting is actually pretty cool. And you could see in the design in itself, like, kind of the goal in a sense, or at least one of the goals, is that they're literally trying to make a comic coming to life. Even like when you look into the details, like if you see some of the highlights or the shadows, you see some spots put in onto the characters, trying to make it look like it was printed into a comic. So this is literally trying to bring the pages to life. And on top of that, it is really cool to actually see a new introduction to a Spider-Man that's actually not Peter Parker, which in this case is Miles Morales. And the way that they did introduce him in this teaser trailer, it is actually pretty nice, you know? Like, this is pretty much trying to say, meet the new Spider-Man. This is the new web slinger. The one that maybe J. Jonah Jameson is going to be, you know, he's pretty much going to be obsessing over, like, demanding pictures of Spider-Man and all that kind of stuff. But there are two things that, honestly, I feel a bit concerned about, and I'm not 100% sure how to feel about this trailer right over here. Well, first and foremost is actually going to be regarding the title, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And with that one, I'm not necessarily that much of a fan of, because I feel like it's just a little too direct. Because if you guys know, Sony Pictures, they have this big goal to create this entire Spider-Man cinematic universe without actually using Peter Parker. I know it sounds weird, but that's essentially the idea that they want to go with. Since considering that Peter Parker now, he's pretty much busy in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they can't necessarily use him or have a different Peter Parker appearing like at the same time, where it would be weird if one year you would have one different Peter Parker and then you would have a Spider-Man Homecoming sequel happening at the same time. So, yeah, and the movies that they have in there, of course, we got Into the Spider-Verse, but also plenty of other live-action films that they want to plan out. Like, next year, they want to release Venom as the one to start it all, and then there's another one with Black Cat and Silver Saber, and then recently they announced one with Mobius, or I think that's his name, Mobius the Living Vampire. And with that said, I'm not 100% sure if what they're saying here, Into the Spider-Verse, if they would mean like, oh, we're gonna get into the Spider-Man cinematic universe. That honestly would send me a bit of a bad signal that Sony would be going a little bit into the dark universe route, where they might just go ahead and focus a lot more into starting a big cinematic universe instead of just focusing on making a good movie in itself, because that was one of the big disastrous moments about The Mummy, because The Mummy didn't want to be its own thing. It just wants to be a big starter for the dark universe and then just try to copy elements from the Brendan Fraser movie. This is something that I am a little bit worried about in general for not just Into the Spider-Verse, but also for Sony's big Spider-Man cinematic universe in general, that the big focus is just to start off this cinematic universe instead of making a collection of good movies on their own that coincidentally would link with each other. So, I don't know, but maybe I could be wrong, and maybe what they're insinuating about Into the Spider-Verse, it could mean something different within the movie. Maybe there is something inside about the Spider-Verse that could actually have some kind of meaning. So the Spider-Verse may not necessarily mean the Spider-Man cinematic universe. Maybe there is something within the context of the movie that there is something going on with it. But my first impression of it is that I'm not 100% sure if I could be down with it. But then there is also another thing that I'm not 100% sure about, is actually regarding the animation. And with that one, I've noticed that a lot of people are completely split over this. Like, there are some people that adore the animation style that they see right over here. They think it's the best. It looks amazing. Like, oh my god, it's so awesome. Don't say anything bad about it. I like it. It's so good. But then there are also others, and I think I would actually apply myself into that category, where we're not criticizing it. We're just a little bit confused. Like, we're not really understanding with the direction that it's trying to go. Because with what they're presenting here, it's like an entire mishmash of styles. Like, we see several things going on. Like, okay, I do understand the style of, like, making the pages of a comic book coming to life. That I understand. But also at the same time, we see that there is a bit of like kind of like a bit of a separation of the reds and the blues, kind of having this, kind of having a little bit of this retro 3D look. Like when you know when you have to wear 3D glasses that have the red and the blue tint. It does have a little bit of that look, and you could definitely tell in terms of the color scheme that the reds and the blues are extremely prominent right over here. Then at the same time, you also see a little bit of flashes of cell shades, like especially when Spider-Man would be chasing the villain. Like you see just little instances of Miles suddenly having this 2D look applied to him. But I think the biggest piece of criticism that people have over this trailer is actually regarding, funny enough, the frame rate. Now you might be wondering, why the frame rate? That seems like an odd choice to criticize about. But here's the thing about the frame rate is that for some reason, it actually really went low. Like, for some reason, especially the one scene that is the most prominent in this trailer is when you would see Miles swinging over a building and then he would land on top of one. You actually see the frame rate significantly drop, where now it just looks like a stop motion movie. You know, it like, what a coincidence that Phil Lord and Chris Miller are involved with this film, because it's a little bit of the same veins of what the Lego movie did in order to look stop motion. Now, the thing is right over here is that, yeah, it definitely looks cool and it can look great on its own, but I'm wondering why though? Like, that's the one thing I'm not understanding is the artistic direction. That's the part I'm not understanding. Is it, like, why do we see the frame rate dropping? Why is it so low to make it look like a stop motion film? Or why is it that we would only see flashes of different cell shades? Like, why are they trying to do these different things? And that's one thing that I am a little bit worried about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I heard that there is 3 directors working on this film, and one thing that could be its ultimate downfall is that this movie would try to do so many things that it would ultimately look like a mess, that there is no real one big direction that it's trying to go. I mean, the different styles, they look great individually, but all coming together to tell this one superhero movie based on a comic is just, some of them, I feel like it doesn't make sense, or there is a lack of explanation. I think that's what I would like to know. If someone could explain to me why these styles are incorporated onto this film, and if there is an actual order to them, that would be something I would like to see. So, or I would like to know, actually. So, overall, I would say that when it comes to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, after watching this, I don't think I would immediately put this as one of my most anticipated animated films of 2018. Like, that's still completely reserved to the Disney sequels like Ralph Breaks the Internet and The Incredibles 2, and also to the stop-motion films like Early Man and Isle of Dogs. But I will say that this actually does work as a teaser trailer because it does intrigue me. Like, I'm not immediately excited to see the movie just yet. I'm not completely sold on it, but I would like to know a little bit more. Because so far, they're showing me different styles, but I'm not really understanding why they're doing them. And by the way, no, just saying that, oh, but it's a style, that's not a good enough explanation. So yeah, honestly, overall with this, I would say that, I don't know, like, honestly, I'm not intrigued to fully see the movie just yet, but I would like to know a little bit more. Maybe if they would release a full trailer of what's going to be going on with this movie, and maybe explaining a little bit of what they're trying to do with the animation, then I could understand, and maybe I can go a little bit, to be a little bit more optimistic with this. But honestly, at this point, we'll just have to wait and see. And if you guys are excited to go and check out Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, then all you have to do is just wait until December 14th, 2018 for the movie to be released. And by the way, one more thing I just want to add, considering that I mentioned the release date, considering that it is a full year since, it's going to be a full year as I'm recording this, that they would actually release Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, then in this case right over here, they still have a lot of time to fix up some of the things. Maybe in the future they'll change up the title, maybe they'll spruce up the animation, it'll look a little bit more different than what we see in the teaser trailer. Who knows, but they do have plenty of time to fix it up, but considering, well, it is from Sony Pictures Animation, they also have plenty of time to just, completely destroy it or screw it up. So, will they fix it? Will they screw it up? Who knows, but it's gonna be next year that we will have to find out. Okay, so for our next story that we have right over here, we're going to be talking about DreamWorks Animation. And surprisingly enough, their TV lineup has been doing very successfully for them, especially with many different TV shows that they would put on, not just on cable television, but especially on Netflix. They have been doing quite amazingly, receiving so many Emmy Awards, especially with shows like All Hail King Julian, but also some of their original shows would become some of the biggest series on Netflix, or even the biggest animated series on Netflix, especially with Guillermo del Toro's Troll Hunters. But it seems like DreamWorks is just beginning when it comes to releasing Netflix shows, because this year, or not this year, but for next year, DreamWorks Animation has announced that they will release 6 brand new TV shows on Netflix for 2018. Yes, 6. Half of which are actually going to be based on their movies, and the other half is going to be brand new original programming. And if I may go into the list right over here using my source here on Deadline, the first one that we got, and by the way, I might as well start things off by going into the ones based on their movies, and then afterwards look into the ones that are based on their TV shows. So, as I was saying, the first one that they have announced, and the only one that they actually do have a trailer and a release date for, is actually going to be Trolls: The Beat Goes On. The Netflix original series is an all-new chapter to the endlessly upbeat adventures of the Trolls, as Poppy, Branch, and all of Troll Village keep the party going in their fantastical forest home. Executive produced by Matthew Beans of Robot Chicken, the series features Skylar Astin of Pitch Perfect, and Amanda Leighton of This Is Us and The Fosters as the voices of Branch and Poppy, respectively, with original songs written and produced by Alana da Fonseca of Pitch Perfect 3. And also included is going to be a trailer. And on top of that, they would say that this is going to be the first of the series that they would be releasing in 2018, since that one is going to be coming out on January 19th. Then the next one that they have is actually going to be one based on, yes, this is legit, The Boss Baby, back in business. Boss Baby, with the help of his big brother and partner in crime Tim, continues to navigate the cutthroat corporate jungle gym of Baby Corp, while angling to achieve the near impossible, the work-life balance of a modern career baby. From Emmy Award-winning executive producer Brandon Sawyer of Penguins of Madagascar. And finally, the last one that are based on their movies is The Epic Tales of Captain Underpants. Based on the epic books by Dave Pilkey, DreamWorks' The Epic Tales of Captain Underpants follows the adventures of George Beard and Harold Hutchins, two best friends who's bonded through their love of pranking, comic books, and being the thorns in Principal Krupp's side. Their fun gets them mixed up in adventures crazier than their outrageous comic books, which is when they call out their greatest creation, Captain Underpants. The series comes from Peabody Award and Emmy Award-winning executive producer Peter Hastings of Animaniacs and Kung Fu Panda: Legends of Awesomeness. And before I get into the original shows themselves, let me just talk a bit about these shows that are based on the movies. And I think the least surprising of the bunch that would actually get made is actually Trolls: The Beat Goes On. Considering that the format that DreamWorks built it's like, I've mentioned this before, but Trolls is basically DreamWorks' answer to the Smurfs. It has massive marketing opportunities, and I'm sure that the success of Trolls is not just by the movie itself, but also because of merchandising. Because that's the thing with Trolls, they're actually based on the classic toys that actually have the freaky faces, and they would have giant long hair. And like, considering that they are popular toys, they would even make appearances in the Toy Story films. So, with that said, it's not necessarily that surprising that, considering that DreamWorks Animation would actually consider making TV shows based on their movies, like, it's not really shocking to see that Trolls would be on that list. And looking through the actual trailer in itself, I feel like this is the kind of show that it's pretty much made for Trolls superfans. Like, this is not just for people who enjoyed the movie, but these are the people these are for the people that love the movie so much and that they would later go and, how can I put this? Like, not only they love the movie so much, but also they would be willing to go and buy the merchandising. Like, this show is legitimately for them. And then you also got The Boss Baby back in business. And I think out of this entire list, this is the one that makes the least amount of sense. And this honestly feels like a TV show based on a movie that nobody really asked for. Because the thing is, with The Boss Baby, like, my question for this series is, I mean, how much are you gonna go far just to exploit having a baby in a business suit? Because the whole thing with The Boss Baby, it's just a little novelty. Like, the selling points themselves are also just a novelty. The movie itself is just seeing Alec Baldwin being Alec Baldwin. And maybe for some people out there, they just want to see it because they're just a sucker for seeing cute things. And they just want to see a whole bunch of babies in business suits and like the boss, and like just seeing a baby act like Alec Baldwin like he normally would on television. So honestly, that's the one that kind of makes the least amount of sense, seeing like, I don't know how far they can really go with this one right over here. Like, honestly, I'm going to give it two seasons tops, but that's all. But then again, like, it doesn't make sense either to make a series based on Turbo, you know, the movie where the snail goes fast and it's kind of like their ripoff of Ratatouille and Cars. Like, I think that show is still going on Netflix, or at least it ran for a while and actually won a few Emmy Awards, so who knows how that's going to go. But honestly, out of all those three, the one that actually does have the most promise is actually Captain Underpants. And I'm not just saying that because I am a fan of the original books that they're based on, and I actually really like the movie. I actually do see a lot of potential right over here in a creative front, and not only that, but also for the people behind it, especially the fact that they do have Peter Hastings as a executive producer, and he already proved his worth with his Emmy Award and a Peabody Award. And with the Epic Tales of Captain Underpants, they actually have a lot of material that they can work with, since it is based on the series of books. Like, not only that they could go back into some of the elements that they featured in the movie, but at the same time, they also got a lot of material that they had yet to touch upon from the books. So, considering that it didn't do a lot at the box office, I don't think we're gonna see a sequel to Captain Underpants anytime soon, but yeah, honestly, whatever they need to go and work on and add into like whatever they would want to do with Captain Underpants, they got the books to go and actually work on it. Like, maybe we will see a lot more villains that have been prominently featured in the Captain Underpants books. Like, we're gonna see the evil wedgie woman, or we're gonna see the alien lunch ladies, or I forgot his name, but he's like an evil villain, and he's like really tiny and he wears a diaper. So maybe we will see those villains be featured in Captain Underpants. But yeah, like, out of all of them, I do see Captain Underpants having the strongest potential here. But then we also got the original series. That's just half of it, keep in mind. First and foremost, we got a real big one right over here, which is actually a reboot of She-Ra, which is the female equivalent of He-Man. And it says right over here, the trailblazing girl power icon originally debuted in 1985 to satisfy overwhelming demand for a female lead fantasy series. With Stevenson's unique voice at the helm, fans are in store for an epic and timely tale that celebrates female friendship and empowerment, led by a warrior princess tailor-made for today. And Stevenson, did they mention who would it be? Oh, yes. Oh, well, wait a minute. is it just like, is Stevenson gonna be the voice, or I think, well, it says just at the helm, but yeah, it seems like it's going to be executive produced and also an Eis or no, yeah, it's going to be executive produced and a Eisner award-winning author, Noelle Stevenson, that's going to be putting up She-Ra right over here. And then the next one that we have is going to be an all-new original series called Harvey Street Kids. And it says here, from its never-ending games of kickball to the infinite flavors of its ice cream truck to the greatest climbing tree in the universe, every day on Harvey Street feels like a Saturday. And that's largely thanks to the Harvey girls, Audrey, Lotta, and Dot, the block's self-appointed guardians and the world's bestest BFFs. They will do whatever it takes to keep Harvey Street the best block to never grow up on and transform every afternoon into a wild adventure. The series comes from executive producer Brendan Hay of Dawn of the Cruise, The Daily Show, and The Daily Show with Jon... Let me redo that. Dawn of the Cruise and The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and Emmy Award-winning Aliki Theophilopoulos. I am so sorry that I screwed up your name there. He previously worked on Phineas and Ferb and Descendants Wicked World. And finally, the last one that in mention on this list is actually something that we have already heard of, which is the second installment of the Tales of Arcadia trilogy, Three Below. But not just that. On top of adding in Three Below, it would also mention that in 2018 that we're going to be getting the third and final season of Troll Hunters, which it says right over here, DreamWorks Troll Hunters Part 2 from Guillermo del Toro premieres on Netflix on Friday, December 15th, or as you're listening to this, it's pretty much on now, with a third and final chapter of the Emmy-winning series set to debut in 2018. Three Below, the second series in the previously announced Tales of Arcadia trilogy, will premiere in late 2018 to feature two royal teenage aliens and their bodyguard who flee a surprise takeover of their home planet by an evil dictator and crash land in Arcadia. Now on the run from intergalactic bounty hunters, they struggle to blend in and adapt to the bizarre world of high school, all the while attempting to repair their ship so they can return and defend their home planet. A final chapter, Wizards, is set to debut in 2019. DreamWorks Troll Hunters is created and executive produced by Guillermo del Toro and Mark Guggenheim of Arrow and Legend of Tomorrow, Rodrigo Blas of Alma, and Chad Hames of Dragons Race to the Edge, and Christina Steinberg from Rise of the Guardians serving as executive producers. Dan Hegman of the Lego Movie and also Ninjago, and Dan Hegman and Kevin Hegman would be serving as co-executive producers. Now, honestly, among those three original shows right over here, I think among them, the one that's going to be the most anticipated and debatably the most anticipated of the entire list would actually be She-Ra. Because in this day and age, especially with the Me Too movement, female empowerment is starting to become really, really big. And women are finally going to be having their voice, or they already started to have their voice right over here. So watching a show like She-Ra is going to be something that will be huge, basically. And especially these same women that now are having their voice, they most likely have grown up watching She-Ra. So this is going to be one that they will especially keep an eye on to see if it will really satisfy the need of girl power. That, or maybe DreamWorks is just trying to profit on some of that He-Man money, who knows. But yeah, this is going to be something that they will keep an eye on and hopefully might turn out to be big. Like maybe this will be their new big original series next to the Tales of Arcadia saga. But then also you got Harvey Street Kids, which honestly, I don't know how to feel about this one because from the description that they're releasing right over here, it just sounds like your typical kids rule type of show. Like, honestly, the things that I'm hearing, it's like, okay, what makes it so different than me? Like, honestly, why would I care about watching this if I can just go and watch Codename Kids Next Door again? Because that's honestly the only thing that I feel that's coming out of this Harvey Street Kids, is the fact that they're just making another typical kids rule type of show. So I don't know if that's really going to last long. And then finally, we got Three Below and Troll Hunters. I think I've already talked about this. As someone who has seen and loved the first season of Troll Hunters, and also I am planning to check out season 2 pretty soon, I'm definitely excited for both series, for Troll Hunters and for Three Below. So, honestly, with Troll Hunters, well, I don't think I can really say my thoughts on what's going to happen with season 3 because I need to check out season 2 first. And with Three Below, I do hope that it could be a great spiritual successor, or if it'll end up being in the veins of something like what we got with Troll Hunters, but with a sci-fi theme put into it. So we'll just wait and see how it goes on that one. But yeah, I definitely am excited. So my recommendations on what sounds the best to go see would be, well, of course, Troll Hunters season 3, then also Three Below. Also, check out She-Ra, and also the epic tales of Captain Underpants. As for the rest, well, you can check them out, but honestly, I don't really have any high hopes for them. But with every single one of them, with all these shows, they are all going to be coming out in 2018, so stay tuned on Netflix. Okay, so for our next story that we got right over here, this is just a small story. I'm not going to go into it a little too much, but it's really going to make up for it for its strangeness. For the fact that it's honestly weird to hear about. And we actually have a bit of a smooth transition over here because this is still about Netflix. Now, considering that we have reached the end of the year, Netflix would go out and release their report and some of the interesting statistics that happened throughout 2017. Like this year, subscribers from all over the world would watch a combining total of 140 million hours of Netflix. Well, it says right over here, going into my source here in Business Insider, the review found that subscribers around the world collectively watch more than 140 million hours of Netflix a day in 2017. A day! Which pretty much builds up to 1 billion hours per week, which is pretty much insane to think about. But apparently, one thing that they actually released, one little statistic fact that they would mention, is really out there. Like, this is honestly highlighting an obsession right over here. Like, I don't know if this is just taking a meme a little too far, but apparently someone loves B-Movie. Yes, this is actually going to be regarding B-Movie, which, as you may know, is the 2007 DreamWorks Animation film which stars Jerry Seinfeld. And apparently, there is one user in the UK that would actually put on B-Movie for a grand total of 357 times in 2017, in this year. Which the statistic also says that it would be 23.5 days of non-stop streaming, of always putting B-Movie on the television in a loop, which apparently is said to go from November 1st, 2016 to November 1st, 2017. Someone who put it up 357 times. 357! Now, I think we can all agree that in an entire year, there are 365 days. So, literally, this person from the UK would have put up B-Movie once per day throughout the entire year. Like, once a day, just put up B-Movie. Just like, okay, one day, put up B-Movie. Now, of course, there are a few of them that he have missed, But probably that's like, yeah, there's a little bit less than 365. But doing my calculation right over here, that's probably just 8 days without B-movie. But that's probably the guy decided to go and take a vacation and he forgot to have his Netflix or something like that. But imagine, every day of the freaking year, you would have to put up B-movie. It's like, oh, 4 o'clock, time to put up B-movie. And you know the most insane thing about it? It's that, like, you know when you would talk to a super fan of something, and they would say that they absolutely love a movie to the point that they would say, like, oh man, I love this movie. I've seen this like 100 times. This guy took it literally. I mean, even if a super fan would say that, oh, like, they've seen it hundreds of times, in this case, they've seen it 357. How can one person watch a movie 357 times? Now, this could be possible that this is in answer to the big meme that happened last year. If you guys remember at the end of 2016, there was an explosion that people had where they would completely obsess over B-movie, down to the point that they could pretty much recite the entire script. And like they would even like have a fashion trend of people just wearing the entire script in their body. And like they would all recite the same thing, like, according to all laws of aviation, there is no way that a bee could fly. And they were going nuts over the one woman, Vanessa, that wants to shag a bee. That's the whole thing. Like there was a big explosion of the B-movie being freaking everywhere. Out of all the DreamWorks movies to turn into a crazy meme, they gotta pick B-movie. Like Shrek, like they have Shrek, but also we might as well add in Barry B. Benson right over there. It's either one of two things. It's either this Netflix user is a huge fan of B-movie, it's his or her biggest, most beloved feature. It's like that person's favorite movie, period. And if that's the case, good for them. Like, you know, they love the B-movie. That's nice. That, or they're just taking a meme way too far. Like, it's almost in the same mentality as, like, the Rick and Morty Szechuan sauce thing, where they're going so crazy for the B-movie, they just need to watch it over and over again. And I think at that point, if this maybe this person just put it up, like, as background noise or something like that. Either that, or maybe, like, now this person saw B-movie so much to the point that this person's brain is filled with everything about B-movie. Every single factoid about B-movie, every little detail, everything is in B-movie. They know every extra's name, every person that appeared in this movie. Like, they know who they are. They know every bee in this movie. They all know their names. They all know the behind-the-scenes stuff. They literally know 100% about everything. Like, this is the king. This is the master of B-movie right over here. But yeah, this is just a little story that I got. It's just insane. But yeah, like, imagine, would you be willing to watch B-movie 357 times over the course of the year? It would probably turn you quite crazy. And now it is time that we shall go and end things off with AniMat's pick of the week. And if I could be very honest, this is honestly one of the most requested stories that people ask me to go and report. For many weeks, this has been considered a rumor. And I've had people coming in and asking me, oh, are you going to talk about this story? Can you talk about this story? Go ahead, talk about this story. I want to hear your thoughts about this story. Like, they really want me to go and talk about this. But honestly, I held back. I thought this sounded way too big to be true. I didn't think this would possibly happen, considering that it was still considered a rumor. And it felt like something that would be so big that it would even just make the purchase of Lucasfilm and Marvel look like it was nothing. You know what I mean? It just sounded way too big to be true. So I kind of held back and I wanted to wait to see if there would be any kind of official word about it. But this week, however, it seems like it's gonna happen. Or it actually did happen, actually. So, you guys asked for it. You want it? You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, let us talk about Disney buying Fox. Yes, the Walt Disney Company has decided to go and buy the grand majority of 21st Century Fox for a grand total of $52.4 billion, which pretty much means that now Disney would own all the cable network programming, all the movie stuff, all the TV shows, and they would even own some of the shares. Like now Disney would actually own the grand majority of Hulu, and they would now own National Geographic, and they would own some of the TV stations. However, the only things that Disney does not actually own is actually Fox Business Network, Fox Sports, and Fox News. Now, those assets right over there, they still belong to Rupert Murdoch. And what he's going to do with those three things, he's going to form a brand new company with it. Well, at least thanks to the $52 billion investment. So that's pretty much the big implication, is that Disney would end up owning 20th Century Fox. And the big question remains right over here about as to why they would actually go and own Fox. Now, for the reasons why, I've heard several different explanations right over here. And honestly, from what I've heard, I heard some arguments that would say that Disney wanted to be very serious when it comes to the streaming competition. Like when Disney is gonna go and open their own streaming service, they want to be major serious competitors to companies like Netflix and Amazon. Some also stated that it's also because, considering that Bob Iger is going to be retiring soon, he wants to have this one last major impact before he would resign as the CEO of Disney. And some people would say it's more because Rupert Murdoch himself just wanted to get rid of some of the other assets so that he could put his focus a little bit more on stuff like Fox News. And there is actually a lot of implications on the business side on what it would mean for both Disney and for Fox to go and see what is it that's going to happen with them. I actually do have a little bit of a list right over here in my source here on Variety. Now, apparently what's going to happen is that the deal values the 21st Century Fox assets in the transaction of $66.1 billion, including $13.7 billion in 21st Century Fox debts, or 28 in a share. The enterprise value of the deal is $69 billion. And also, one major news about this is that it also says Disney chairman and CEO Bob Iger has extended his contract with the company for another 2 years through the end of 2021 in order to oversee the integration of the assets. It also says that 21st Century Fox shareholders, especially with the Murdochs, will receive 0.2745 Disney shares for each Fox share held, giving Fox shareholders about 25% of Disney. It also stated that 21st Century Fox will spin off Fox Broadcasting Company, Fox Sports, Fox News, and Fox television stations, and a handful of other assets into a new company that will have revenue of $10 billion and earnings of about $2.8 billion. The 20th Century Fox lot in Century City will also remain with the spin-off Fox company. 21st Century Fox will continue to pursue its acquisition of the remaining 61% stakes in Eurosatcaster Sky that it does not already own, with the intention of Disney taking over when the Disney-Fox transaction is complete. And also says that Disney expects to realize $2 billion in cost savings for combining Disney and Fox overlapping business within 2 years of the deal closing. And finally, it says that Disney expects the regulatory review of acquisition to take as long as between 12 to 8 months. So it's going to take a little bit of a while for Disney to actually own Fox. Like, now we know this is happening, but it's going to take a little while for it to actually go and have any sort of effect right over here. But honestly, this is something that I would say that we probably should have seen it coming. And the thing is, as you probably know, not only am I a huge fan of Disney animation, but I'm also a huge fan of Disney theme parks. And honestly, I have been seeing a little bit of a pattern right over here. Because whenever there is something that would enter into the Disney parks that doesn't necessarily directly belong to Disney, then it would be completely transformed into something that is Disney. And if you don't know what I mean, here's the thing. Now, back in the late 1980s, George Lucas and Disney decided to collaborate in order to create Star Tours, which is the theme park ride based on Star Wars. And then on top of that, there is also several different Indiana Jones rides throughout the Disney parks. Whether it be Indiana Jones Adventures at Disneyland, California, or in the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular at Walt Disney World in Florida. And then afterwards, years later, Disney would end up owning the entirety of Lucasfilms, including Star Wars and Indiana Jones. And then after that, there is also in the early 90s, you would have Muppet Vision 3D, which is a collaboration between Jim Henson and Disney to create what is pretty much the most beloved and most popular 3D attraction at the Disney parks, which is still going on to this day. And personally, I would say it's my favorite Disney ride, period. And then what would end up happening years later? Disney owns the Muppets. Now, some people would say that, okay, considering that Disney bought Fox, is it the fact that when you think about the original Star Wars, like the original trilogy, and also, what else was there? Like the prequels, considering that they were distributed by Fox, is it because of that Disney went to buy Fox? No. This is because of the latest and biggest attractions that Disney released in 2017. And what I'm talking about is actually Avatar. Yes, earlier in 2018, Disney actually opened Pandora, the World of Avatar, which is an entire new section at Disney's Animal Kingdom in Walt Disney World, which brings the Avatar family, which brings Avatar into the Disney family. And then, what a coincidence, just moments later, or months later, Disney decides to own Fox in its entirety. And it's honestly insane. Because now, when you think about it, the implications mean so much, considering that now they don't own everything of Fox, because Rupert Murdoch still owns all the news outlets, and I think it mentioned that they own all the they own the channels themselves. But Disney still owns all the movies and all the TV shows and some of the other bonus stuff as well, considering that now Disney owns the majority of Hulu right now, considering that they already have a 30% share and now they got Fox's share as well. So they pretty much own it at this point. But also they would own the National Geographic's channel. They might own Sky also. They have a lot of stuff. And even when you think about the movies and the TV shows individually, that would mean a lot of stuff. Like, now Disney actually owns some of the biggest movies of all time. Like, they own Titanic. They now completely own Avatar. And even, well, since this is the animation podcast, we should also be talking about the fact that they own a lot more animation outlets. They own a lot of stuff that have been handled and distributed by Fox. Like, I actually have another source here on the Animation Scoop that actually has a pretty good list of all the big stuff or the big animation stuff that Disney would own now that they have Fox. Like, now Disney would own Ralph Bakshi's Wizards and Fire and Ice. They also have Ferngully. They have Once Upon a Forest. They have Pagemaster. They have Anastasia and Titan AE, which now people are pretty much freaking out, thinking that now they would say that Anastasia would officially be a Disney princess. And also, they own Blue Sky Studios, which right now, Blue Sky Studios is honestly a bit scared about this deal. They're not sure about their future, considering that Disney already has Walt Disney Animation Studios and they already have Pixar Animation Studios. They're just a little bit afraid, thinking that maybe in the future, Disney would not need Blue Sky Studios and it could mean the potential downfall of it. But if I can be honest, I don't think there really is any danger to Blue Sky Studios themselves. I mean, yeah, there definitely is a possibility that they could shut down because of this deal. But personally, I feel like if Blue Sky Studios survived having DreamWorks Animation as a distributor or not, like having DreamWorks Animation be distributed by 20th Century Fox, then I think they could probably survive this as well. I mean, I honestly see there are a few other major animation studios that have a better chance of shutting down than Blue Sky Studios. So, honestly, I have a good feeling that they could be safe throughout all this. But, yeah, honestly, that's just what I feel about it. I don't know if it's actually going to be the case, but who knows? But also, on top of that, there is one more movie that they do now own, which is The Book of Life. Which, considering that people decided that they want to try to make this big war between The Book of Life and Coco, well, I guess in this case right over here, Disney wins because now they do have both. And hey, if you look in the bright side, there could be a possibility that we could actually see an official crossover with Manolo and Miguel. Who knows? But I think even bigger than any of the movies, I think the big deal with animation is the fact that they now own the TV shows, especially with the animation domination. Now, of course, they would have the Fox Kids shows as well. Like now, like they have shows like The Tick and Bobby's World. But also, with animation domination, they own some of the biggest animated TV shows of all time. They have King of the Hill. They have Futurama. They have the Seth MacFarlane shows like The Cleveland Show, American Dad, and Family Guy. They have Bob's Burgers. And they own The Simpsons. The fact that Disney owns The Simpsons is a giant deal in itself. And honestly, that's just mind-blowing. Like, it's really huge at this point. The amount of animation stuff that they own. Like now, like Disney's collection of animation works, like now it's getting really up there next to what Time Warner has and what Comcast has with all the, like with everything that's under the Universal umbrella, with all those classic cartoons and Illumination and DreamWorks Animation. And then you also got Time Warner, where they got all the Looney Tunes, the Hanna-Barbera stuff, Tom and Jerry, and like all those cartoons. So yeah, now we got the three giants of animation, which is Disney, Comcast, and Time Warner. Those are the big ones that we have right over here. And honestly, that's just in the animation front, but this doesn't just mean any huge implications on animation, this also has huge implications on other things as well. Like, a great example is actually with Star Wars. Now, Disney would actually own 100% of Star Wars, not just, not only do they completely own the prequels, but now they actually do have the original movies. So, one great thing that could potentially come from this is that maybe in the future, we will see the long-awaited release of the theatrical cut, the one that has been originally released back in the late 70s and the early 80s, because people have been waiting for that moment for so long to see how Star Wars was back when it was actually released and before George Lucas would come in and just fidget around with some of the stuff and like adding in some like modern special effects and computer effects and have one weird moment where young Han Solo would be talking with a computer animated Jabba the Hutt. So it could mean that. And also, let us not forget about Rupert Murdoch's side of the deal, because even though he's 86 years old and he's ready to go and meet his maker, he is settled for life and he is free to pretty much do whatever he wants. And honestly, I feel like this is something that he wanted to really do for a long time, because that's the big thing about this deal. It's not necessarily Disney wanting to buy Fox, it's Rupert Murdoch wanting to sell Fox. Because that's kind of the big thing. Like, he wants to get rid of that. And if it wasn't Disney that would buy Fox, then it would either be Comcast or Sony. And at this point, I think a lot of people would probably be in total panic if it belongs to any of these two. So, if I may be a little bit of devil's advocate here, honestly, it would be better off if Disney would buy Fox, because it could have been much worse right over there. But with Rupert Murdoch, now he's pretty much free to go and focus just purely on the things he wants to focus, which is regarding the news, to really put his focus to work on Fox News and on Fox Sports without any of the trouble to also work on the movie industry and to make TV shows and all that kind of stuff. Like, he's pretty much exiting the entertainment industry so that he can purely work on the business and purely work on the news. And he can pretty much do whatever he wants, considering that now he has a nice little $50 billion check in his hands. So really, there's no trouble for him at all. If there is a huge issue, then honestly, he's at the point where money can solve anything. And at that point, honestly, it's just... Honestly, what I'm describing here, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It can mean plenty of stuff as well. But honestly, the craziest thing about all this is that there are a lot of people that they don't see the big picture of what this could potentially mean. They don't really see what's the big idea of what it could mean nowadays that now Disney bought Fox, and how it could potentially change the entertainment industry as we know it. Because the sad truth is, if you would ask anyone on the internet what it means that Disney would go and buy Fox, then there's a pretty big chance that they would just tell you, oh, well, now it means that Disney would own X-Men, Deadpool, and Fantastic Four, and that they would be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And apparently that's pretty much it. That's all that they would just talk about. The fact that now that they got Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Deadpool onto the Disney mantle. That's all it is. Like, apparently that would be the only reason why Disney bought Fox in the first place. Well, let me just tell you guys, if Disney just wanted to go and get X-Men, Deadpool, and Fantastic Four, they would have just went and bought X-Men, Deadpool, and Fantastic Four. So it doesn't mean just that. I know that you're really excited for all the superhero crap, but really you're not seeing the big picture right over here. Like, just take your mind out of that for a second and, like, just look at literally everything else that's happening. Because the superhero thing, it doesn't even cover a fraction of what this could mean. But there is one thing I will say, though, that I can see that will happen in the future when it comes to superheroes, is that now that Disney actually did went and get stuff like X-Men, Deadpool, and Fantastic Four, now that they own almost everything in terms of the movie rights for the Marvel characters, they are going after Sony. Now, I'm not saying that Disney is going to plan to buy Sony Pictures. The Sony Corporation in Japan are not letting that happen. But Disney is going to go to Sony, and they are going to go buy the rest of the Marvel movie rights. Like, they're going to go get Ghost Rider, and they are getting Spider-Man no matter what. They want to go and create their own cinematic universe. They want to make their little movies like Venom and Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. Yeah, that's nice. Disney doesn't care. They're gonna take it regardless. So that's one thing I'm pretty certain is going to happen in the future. But overall, I feel like with all that I've mentioned, I don't think I even covered the surface of the implications of all this. Yeah, this is definitely going to be huge. And this is going to be a massive game changer in the entertainment industry. But overall, I just feel like this is like it's a little too soon to really determine what's going to happen. I feel like we're really going to see something happen in either 2019 or 2020 when we're actually going to see the full effect of Disney buying buying Fox in general. So we're not going to see any big changes happening in 2018 or sometime in the near future, but it will take a little while. So who knows how it's going to go? Who knows what's going to happen with the future of their movies or their TV shows? Personally, I don't think there's going to be any big changes. Like, I don't think, like, we're going to see everything be completely Disneyfied. Like, if we look at what happened with Marvel and if we look at what happened with Star Wars, I think, like, odds are, like, all the movies from 20th Century Fox, they will be fine, and it will almost feel like nothing happened at all. It's just Disney now is going to make more money out of it. So, honestly, this is going to be a bit of a wait and see to see what will happen to the future of Fox. What will happen to the future of these filmmakers. So it's a little too soon to have any effect right now. But yeah, this is honestly going to be a giant game changer right over here. That I know for certain. And that is all that I've got for this week, so thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Animation Podcast. You can also find more of my work on film-book.com. All you have to do is search for Matthew Brunette or the Animation Podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at AniMat505, and if you have listened to this podcast on iTunes or any other podcast service, do you mind doing us a little bit of a favor and rate and review this episode? And also, if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, then hit that like button on our video, and leave us a little comment on your thoughts on the news this week. Tune in next week for the latest episode of the Animation Podcast and all things animation. Thank you guys so much for listening. And until next week, see ya later, dudes.